So, Heather, when we broke, we were talking about your thoughts that the election of Hillary Clinton is not just about symbolism and not just about a milestone as a measure of where we are as a society, or at the very least, a subset of society that would presumptively nominate, if you will, our first women for the candidacy of the presidency. But you also argue that it's going to make our party and perhaps our government more progressive because there's studies to that effect that it in many different ways having a woman who's representative of other women necessarily has a more progressive issue set. And things that come to mind are sort of like a greater consciousness of things like parental leave or, obviously notions of equality when it comes to pay. One of the stats from your piece this past week that I found really stunning was that America has hosted 56 presidential elections, 33 of them before women received the right to vote, which if you listen to, I know you did, but if folks listen to Hillary Clinton's campaign, know that happened on the day that Hillary Clinton's mother was born back in 1919, if I'm not mistaken. And that's pretty stunning. I don't know if people realize how recently women were considered basically their husband's property in this country. I think it would shock a lot of people under the age of 40 to know that their mothers and if their grandparents, if their parents had them early, their grandmothers couldn't even have a credit card in their own name if they were married. I mean, this is stunning stuff, I think, for people who are not quite aware of just sort of how recent it is that women have become, at least nominally, full partners in our society.
Well, absolutely. I mean, my mother is one of those people who I mean, she could not. She was divorced in the 1940s or early 50s, and she had 2 kids, and her life was an ongoing misery. She was not allowed to get credit, very difficult to get a job, very difficult to support her kids, and she was ostracized by many people in society. This was, that's recent. I mean, it was before I was born, but my 2 older brothers were part of that. And, she really was pretty much required to be married to have a stable life in American society. She wasn't born rich and didn't have, any kind of financial stability, and needed to be married in order to have that. She couldn't get a loan for a house. She couldn't get a credit card. She even had to get her father's permission to get a bank account. This is a grown woman. I mean, a mother with kids, college educated. Ours, that seems recent to me because it's my own, it's my own mother. It's really in my own lifetime. And even within my lifetime, I mean, the workplace that I entered 30 years ago was a very different place. The madman world was very recent when I entered the workplace, and the way that women were treated, the way that we were relegated to the secondary jobs, the idea of, the sexual harassment was just part and parcel of, what you just generally put up with. You didn't even think about it. It was so common. This world has, it's been changing rapidly on a historical basis, but for many women who are still alive through this last, 50 years, and who are watching this thing happen, it has been our lifetime that we've gone from a place where women were quite literally second-class citizens to one where we are now, on the brink anyway of starting to achieve true equality. And it's a big deal. And I think that, you have to, it's important to sort of, I don't want to sit here and, tell young people, well, back in the old days, we walked 20 miles to school and, all that. Who cares? I didn't care about that when I was a kid, and I'm sure they don't care about it now. But the fact is that if you take a minute and just ask yourself honestly, why we've never had a woman president, how does that make sense in a country, in a world where half the population is women? How does that make sense? You have to acknowledge that there has been some kind of tremendous cultural barrier, and acknowledge the fact that it's a big deal to actually break through that. You just have to, because it doesn't make sense otherwise. That thing that you just talked about, where we've had what was it, 56 presidential elections, 33 of them before women were allowed to vote, and this is the first woman. I mean, come on. Something's been wrong, okay? Something's not been right, and we're now trying to fix that, and that's great. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really amazing, and I think there seems to me to be a lot of this dynamic that has been left on the table. We just have not seen a lot, it seems to me. It's been mentioned in passing, but I just don't think that this sort of dynamic. I mean, look, there's always this dynamic, right? My parents had a sense of the Depression mostly because of their parents. I mean, these things lose their resonance as you go in time, and it's going to be interesting to see if we get really sort of a full accounting of this and a sense of where we go forward. Because, of course, with Barack Obama, racism was supposed to be dead because we had a black president. No, not by anybody who was thoughtful about it. And sexism and misogyny won't be ended either by having a woman as president. But in some ways, I think there's going to be more ground gained relative to the problem by having a woman as president than I think we gained in terms of race by having Barack Obama. But